All right, we are a little past 3. There are still going to be some folks joining us, but I want to thank everyone for joining us, particularly those of you who maybe aren't on the West Coast time with us NAEOP folk here that are maybe doing this well into your afternoons. Appreciate you being here. What you have joined on is the NAEOP Tech Talk. We have created a series of monthly professional development topics that we're going to be covering each month. And what we have today is a social media overview. So it is my pleasure to introduce our presenters for today. So we have Trevello Stevenson, who is a lovely employee of COE as their digital media manager. And then out of Oregon Trio, we have Jordan J here, who is an AmeriCorps Vista member, who is working with the Oregon Trio Association, our state association, assisting with social media with our organization and doing a lot of amazing stuff. So we thought in the NAEOP region, we would invite these two folks in to really give us a big picture overview of kind of social media in the current landscape and how it all kind of works together in the work that we're trying to do and help our students. So with that, I am going to turn it over. It looks like we have Jordan starting out here. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah. Again, thank you everyone for being here. We appreciate your time and happy you're all tuning in. Matt pretty much covered it. I am serving with AmeriCorps Vista. I have a year's service and my site is Oregon Trio Association. During this year, I'm going to be serving as social media and internship coordinator. And I'm just excited to share with all of you today and hopefully get some feedback, hear questions, and you know, learn more about how we can help each other out. And
for sure, I think we're going to do a switcheroo here. So I'm actually going to stop sharing and do a new share. I believe I am going to go first. But I just want to start off by saying thank you all for coming. Depending upon where you are, it might be afternoon. If you're on the East Coast like me, it's evening. So dinner is calling. We won't try to keep you too long. But again, welcome. Today, myself and Jordan, we're going to give you an overview. And hopefully you'll leave today with some key takeaways that you can get right at and start practicing. I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself. I'm Trevello Stevenson, native Washingtonian here. From DC, that's where I'm coming to you live. I work for the council and I'm in charge of all things digital and all things media. So I handle the emails you might see from us. I handle the social media, the blogs, pretty much all correspondence that have to do with any type of online presence. That's why I'm here. We're also in the process, you guys are getting a little bit of new information here, but we're also in the process of redesigning our website, which I am happy to be a part of. So be on the lookout for that. And if you see me kind of looking at two screens, I'm not cockeyed, I promise. I do have two screens. Our agenda for today on my half, I want you guys to leave knowing at least 3 benefits of using social media. And also I'm all about the action. So hopefully you'll also leave with 3 techniques that you can implement right away to strengthen your program's social media. And if there are any folks out there who are not familiar with social media, my goal today is to definitely make you more comfortable. So we're going to talk about social media platforms, their benefits, some best practices. And then I also would love to have a conversation with you guys about COE social media relationship with your particular program's social media presence. And then we'll have some time for questions. Or if you're one of the people like me who can't remember what you ate for breakfast, feel free to drop your question in the chat and myself or Jordan will try to get that answer out to you. If we have some folks out there, if you're still with me, let me know. You can give me a thumbs up for your reactions, drop it in the chat. Oh goodness, we're seeing presenter screen. I hate when that happens. Let me end this here, go from current slide. Is it doing it? Still not doing it? Let me see if it'll swap it. Display. How about now? Is that better? we seeing everything? Gotcha. Thank you so much. I love the chat. I used to be a teacher too, so thank you, Cynthia. I'm used to all of those things, so keep them coming. I absolutely love it. All right, let's get started. First, if you're not too shy, do me a favor, drop in the chat right now. What is your preferred social media platform? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok? Something I do not have on here. Oh, y'all got it. Yes, right away. IG, Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube. Okay, all right. Listen, rep your platform. I love it. Okay. So fun fact, I can tell pretty much your age based upon what platform you put in the chat. You're probably like, what? Yes, I sure can. So studies have shown that your age, your generation determines which platform you enjoy the most. All right. Now, a lot of us are serving pre-college youth or college youth. And so that's Generation Z. Generation Z lives on social media, guys. And actually, research says that they live on these platforms that you see here in red the most. So that's Instagram, that's TikTok, and that's Snapchat. So if any of you guys, somebody said I'm taking my back. If any of you guys drop Instagram, TikTok, or Snapchat in the chat, you are on par to be in that realm, to be in that area that your audience or your students really live in. So if you notice here, TikTok is really on the come up here. You see that their content is very entertaining. It's, humorous. It has the challenges. All my folks that got a little rhythm, you probably could do, great on TikTok. Snapchat, very silly. It feels good. Focuses a lot on trends. And then Instagram, which has taken a turn from when I actually started being most interested. Instagram is inspirational. It's adventurous. You see a lot of people posting questions or polls or like, hey, tap in if you wear glasses, right? And then my boomers, we have some boomers here because I saw a lot of Facebooks. So a lot of Facebooks in the chat. So those are the baby boomers. Those are the millennials. And so, yeah, those are kind of the audiences for those different platforms. Let me see here because y'all are rolling in this chat. Okay, Facebook, Instagram, organizations. Yeah. So if you don't have one for your particular program, you are in the right spot. Later on, when we have questions, me and Jordan would love for you to kind of bring that back up and ask us how you can get started. He's going to share his story as well. TikTok is on the rise. A lot of you guys are like, I have no idea what TikTok is. Fun fact, it used to be Vine and Musical.ly. I don't know if you guys heard of those before, but they teamed up and that's how TikTok became what it is now. All right, so that's kind of the overview of the different social media platforms. Twitter is there. That's my personal favorite. LinkedIn is there. But those are kind of more formal. LinkedIn is definitely more formal. Now, why should your program use social media? I know sometimes it can get a bad rep, right? Like people are like, I don't want to share every part of my life, or I don't want to have all of this presence. Why do I have to post here and post here? Right? But it's so much value in having a social media presence. Main thing, direct communication, guys. It doesn't get much more one-on-one than this, right? So social media allows for you to get upfront into your audiences, into your students' faces. It allows, like, they have no excuse why they did not see it, right? Unless they mute you. That's another conversation. These platforms also allow for you to foster such a really great connection because this generation, like I said, lives on social media. So that's where they go get all their news. That's where they're going to check in on family members. They probably won't even call or text you, but they'll see what you're doing on social media, right? So it really allows for your program to create that connection and foster connections amongst, the student population, right? That reach and impact. oh my gosh, you cannot quantify or even begin to put a price tag on the amount of reach and impact your social media presence can have. It encourages creativity, right? If you're the one posting, you're like, I have no idea what to post. That's what that explore tab is for. That's what that search is for. You can find some challenge that could definitely get your message out there. Social media also is a place for your students to feel creative, right? Like it's a place where they go to get entertained, or some of them are influencers themselves, right? They might even be providing that content for you. So definitely don't want to miss out on that just because you know, hear some kind of bad things about social media. And then your marketing and your branding. So think of that as like your look and your feel of your page, right? You know how sometimes you go to these folks pages and you're like, wow, I wish I was living like them. I wish I was on that trip with you, you know, or oh, I have to buy this product. Like it just looks so cool. And that's all a part of the marketing and the branding. And you can do that for your program. I promise you. I promise you can. And this graphic here just pretty much sums up what I said about getting your message out there, creating content. That's the curation. You're going to use this platform to get whatever information you need out there and educate your students as well. I want to just check in with folks. Oh, Love Vine. Yes. So the benefits, again, I just gave you like some very direct things, but I also want to speak to my big picture folks, right? So social media offers this like value to your program. I spoke before about like, this is where the age group you're, you know, working for, this is where they go. This is their hub, right? And I know when I'm looking for something or service or good, it's word of mouth, right? Or I'm Googling to see what's the best restaurant for sushi, right? But social media really is that form of providing that validity to your program, right? Like they're going to get on social media and check you out. Oh, I wonder what, you know, UB Trio is up to. I wonder what the SSS program at wherever, I wonder what they're doing this month or this week. And having those platforms really do, you know, give your program more reach, more impact. And then this authenticity piece, this is like your meat and potatoes. If I had to say two things, it would be followers and engagement. Say it with me. Followers and engagement, right? You got to have people on brand with you. You got to get people in your bandwagon to follow you and engage with your posts. And Jordan is going to talk a little bit later about some really good ways to get that engagement and recruitment. So when you have your social platform, you can get folks to really buy into the work that you do. These platforms allow for you to showcase all the great work you're doing as a TRIO professional or as a student. It allows you to highlight them, right? Like I can just think off the top of my head, I think it's, oh my gosh, the Truman McNair program. Anyway, they highlight their students. And I swear every day I'm seeing their account and their colors are purple because, and I remember because they post and they really make sure that you're bought into their students and the work that they're doing through their social media. Somebody said Tumblr was my jam. Tumblr, may Tumblr rest in peace. That was definitely a good one. And this, for my TRIO professionals, you're like, where is the money? This is the money. You can use social media to influence state legislators, right? I pulled here a couple examples of programs from their social media where they tag representatives that come to their campus and visit, right? They send out thank yous. Thank you so much, Representative Carlos, for stopping by, and just really use that as a hub to create connection, to create support and get that information out there and let folks know what's moving and shaking on the TRIO side, right? And remember, for legislation, we're bipartisan. We, red, blue, none of that, TRIO. We care what you do for TRIO. So as a bipartisan organization, it's really important that we thank anyone that's moving TRIO forward. So a good way to thank those folks is to use your social media. And then this bottom picture on the right, you see City of Galesburg. This was actually taken from the front post of their city's newspaper. They actually made the front page where they went to City Hall and spoke about TRIO for National TRIO Day. And that's a great example of how you can activate your students to get them to be advocates for themselves and others. If you look at this picture here on the top right, this was a campus visit. There was a member of Congress, I believe, that stopped by this university, and he actually tweeted this photo out, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a way to get your students involved, right? And they can take these things and do so much with it and amplify as well. And then you're also modeling for them what social media advocacy looks like, right? For my folks that are not so fond of social media, this is a way to positively narrate what it looks like to use social media in a good way, for good. Let me check in and see, we got a couple messages here. Y'all are some Tumblr fans. Yes. Is it back for real? Jenna, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm going to need you to check on that for me. See, let me know if it's back, girl, for real. All right. So before we get started with best practices, I don't want to talk too much here. If anyone wants to drop in the chat some things that they do on social media, or if you have any questions so far, I do want to take a beat to acknowledge that. How we doing? We doing all right out there? Zoom presenting is always like you're on a spaceship and you're in the galaxy and it's like, is anybody home? All right, cool. I'll keep it moving. So some best practices that I want to share with you all. These are my tried and true methods to ensuring that social media is a good place to be. It's a fun place to be. And how I stay informed as well. So shameless plug, follow COE on all social media platforms. I know there are some people attending who do not have social media, right? And you're like, I have no idea where to start. This is a wonderful place to start. Follow COE on all social media, and I will definitely share our handles, @ usernames before we depart today. Also, if you do already follow us, interact, guys. Like, comment, share. I've been doing my best when you guys send me stuff or tag us to be sure to repost and interact with you all as well. It is a real person running it. It is me. I do not just schedule stuff and just have it go out there. We really do try to interact with the community. Subscribe to our newsletter, which is called The Weekly. Pretty self-explanatory, comes out every week. And in there, we have a ton of information. So if it doesn't make it to social media, I can guarantee you that it makes it to the weekly. So if you are ever like, I need to know what's going on, that's the place to be. If you're kind of one of those folks that's like, I know how to do social media, I feel comfortable with it, then I highly encourage you to enable push notifications. So push notifications basically blows your phone up and lets you know anytime a specific person or account does anything. So you can enable that for us, for COE, and you can get notifications on your phone that'll say, COE just posted, just tweeted, they redid this, or, stuff like that. We also drop a lot of breaking news and remind folks of deadlines as well. We also have a community of practice. It's kind of like for my Reddit people. I don't know if I have any folks in here that like Reddit. That's our form of Reddit. Basically, we get on there, we have discussions around the weekly, and it's a way for us to engage and gather as well. Like I mentioned before, tag us. Our official hashtag is all caps #trio, and then works. So whenever you post something, if you forget to tag us, I stay on that hashtag alert like nobody's business. So if you put #trio works, we will see it. And then video performs better. Again, this one is for my folks that have experience with social media. If you're posting already, you're consistent, you're like, this is kind of beginner for me, then make sure you have video, you have things that are interactive. And consistency is key. You want to make sure you're posting, I would say at least once a week if you can, at least once a week if you can. And before we go, just want to give you some tools and resources. Hootsuite is my bestest friend. Hootsuite allows for me to kind of wrangle and manage all my accounts in one place. And then Canva, if you are not artistically inclined, Canva will be your best friend. Bitly, all those links, no one wants to see those long links, right? You're like, just send me to the information, just tell me where to go. Bitly does a great job at condensing those links and telling you where to go. And their free account actually allows you to make up to 100, so please check them out. Linktree is amazing. It's a really cute tool. And those, I would say those are for my, intermediate. You want to, call yourself a professional with social media, we could chat about Linktree. Not y'all done brought Maureen up in the chat. Come on, yeah. Shout out to what is that? BSU Veterans Upward Bound. Okay. I love it. Shameless. No shame, no shame. I believe I have just a couple more slides here and then I'll pass it off to Jordan. Before I go, I do want to thank all of you guys, one, for coming, and two, if you have a social media account, thank you for putting your program's message out there, as well as letting you guys know it's a relationship. Yes, I want you to follow us by all means, but what we post is for you. So feel free to share it, feel free to repost it, make it your own. And then, of course, I love when you guys tag us and when I see, you guys are hosting chat and choose or whatever for your students, it gives us content to post as well. So just wanted to let you guys know it's a hand-in-hand relationship. We're here for you, you're here for us. So if you want us to post something, let us know. And anything we post is yours. And with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for questions. How do we get COE merchandise? Oh, that's a good question. We are actually in the process of talking about that. So I'm so glad you brought that up because some folks are not a fan of the trio merch. So let us know what trio merch you want and we'll see what we can do. But I'm glad you brought that up. Let me see what else we got. He's going. I'm not even going to try to tackle that one. Thank you so much, Isosa, for dropping our COE handles. I'm not seeing any questions. So if you're on Instagram, it's COE Works. If you're on Twitter, it's at COE Talk. And Facebook is literally just Council for Opportunity in Education. Hoodies, beanies, t-shirts. I could do that. I could do some hoodies, even though I'm hoping the weather gets better. But we could do some hoodies, some beanies, t-shirts for sure. If the budget is looking a little tight, we'll definitely, hook you guys up with some stickers at the least. Again, just want to open some time for questions. If not, I'll go ahead. Is this going to be posted? Oh, yes.
Got you there.
Go
okay,
ahead.
So we are recording these, right? So this is part of a monthly series we're doing. This is kind of a part one of a social media branch we're doing. So on May 12th, and I'll post advertisements for that as we get closer to it. Our own Donald Crocker out of Alaska is going to be doing a specific social media deep dive from the program perspective and talking about the different stuff he does at the program level. I don't want to like short anything Jordan's about to present on here, but as far as the recording, this is being recorded now. All those are going to be posted on the NAEOP website, and we'll have a space in there that you can go back and view recordings or show these to any staff members. So yes.
Yep. And if you guys
Travella, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, is that Terrence?
It sure is.
Hi,
everyone.
Terrence. Go ahead.
I want to know who on the call is coming to policy seminar, if they can use that hashtag we got.
Shameless plug. Who's coming to policy seminar? No? It's not too late to register. Oh, I see Chris. Christopher is coming. Veronica's coming. Okay. All right, awesome.
How about, you know what,
Montana,
Travella?
Janelle.
All these people saying they're coming on this webinar, I'd love it if they could pull out their phones and send out a tweet and let us know on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, using that hashtag as a challenge. If they heard anything you said tonight, show us you believe it and post and let us know that you're coming to policy, you're coming to DC, or you're joining from home virtually. I want to see these posts.
And that's why he's my boss, ladies and gentlemen. Shameless plug. I am coming to hashtag COE Policy Seminar 2022 on all our platforms. Please be sure to use that. And I am going to pass it to my wonderful colleague, Jordan, who's going to drop some more gems too. Lorraine, I saw your comment, Lorraine, and I'm going to respond to you in the chat. I want to go ahead and let Jordan get started.
Yeah, thank you so much. A big thanks to COE for collaborating with us on this talk today. We appreciate it so much. And thank you, Travella. You covered so many essentials in such a smooth, cohesive way. I love it. And anyone who may have tuned in late, the chat is open. We encourage you to ask questions at any time. There's already so many people interacting, and it just makes me so happy. You know, we weren't sure, since this is the first in a series, weren't sure how big the turnout was going to be today, but this is just incredible. So we are super excited. And Travella and I had so much fun collaborating on this and thinking up ideas. So we are so excited you're here with us. We will also have an open discussion at the end, answer questions. People can unmute and ask questions out loud or whatever, however we want to take it at that point. But I'm going to dive right in. So I'm going to have a few slides here, and mine's going to take it's a little bit different direction than Travello, and that's why we complement each other so well. So I'm going to say empower and inform for my first slide. While I was thinking about what topics to cover in an overview talk, I kept coming back to the why, the why social media is important for TRIO. And, in thinking about that, I kept, thinking about my personal experiences, what I heard from my peers at a young age. They would talk about their genuine, lack of trust in the schools that we grew up in. Many of them felt that no matter what information came from our schools, whether it was resources created to help us or not, it still tied back to my peers hearing stories from their parents and their grandparents of their real life experiences and being rejected from thriving in the same institutions that were now trying to help, my peers and I. As I grew older, I realized that this was a result of, systemic issues revolving around people of color, people with disabilities, and those who come from low-income households, those groups of, peoples that we intend to serve. And, when we think about that ancestral narrative of oppression, in this example that I've used, we can see how understandable it is for underrepresented students to have a distrust in what they see as organizations of authority, right? That can cause them to not be receptive to opportunities presented to them by their schools or other traditional pathways of communication, like word of mouth or, any things like that. So what do they do? What can they do? Well, these peers of mine today, and even when we were younger, viewed social media as a place where they go to empower themselves. They do this by informing themselves on the possibilities in the world around them and to find resources to better their situation. For these students who have grown up with social media and are experts at maneuvering it, it is a place they trust. It's a place where finding a TRIO Instagram page about resources available in their community on their own makes them feel strengthened by their own abilities to find new information. Like I mentioned briefly, this doesn't only apply to students of color. It applies to any group of people that feel disconnected from their peers. I don't think it's a leap to say that students with disabilities or low-income students may develop a lack of trust of institutions that may not be well equipped or may not have the budget to meet their needs. Again, this can cause them to become less receptive to opportunities presented to them by their schools. And that motivates them to seek out a place where they can lift themselves up, right? So with that said, if our TRIO programs shy away from building an online presence, and if we only stick to those traditional routes of communication, then we can unintentionally grow the educational achievement gap that we're working so hard to close. Social media is what the kids use these days to stay informed and get empowered. If we can build our communities around those two pillars, and if we move forward with those being at the core of our agenda and main focus, we can see an uptick in our social media presence, as well as the quality of our communities for the students we serve as well. I know we're jumping around a little bit, but yeah, now let's jump to what we can do today. And the first thing, and continuing to think about where I want to go with my portion of this talk, I want to change our perspective on social media from negative to positive, right? Like, let's smile. Come on, this is fun. Like, not shying away from social media is so important. With that said, I do have a question for everyone. If we could just do a quick virtual raise of hands on how many of y'all still read the newspaper. I at grocery stores, I still see newspaper stands. They're out there. I'm seeing a couple. I'm seeing maybe a few of traditional, traditional paper newspapers, the ones made out of trees. So maybe there are some, but probably not a lot. And that brings me to my next point, that we need to be wherever the students we intend to serve are. Using example from the past, going off of that, before there was social media, if a majority of viewers, let's say a majority of viewers are watching TV for their news, and we at TRIO or their competition is still 95% focused on providing our news through newspaper, then we're going to fall behind. One way or another, we're going to fall behind. And I think it is a similar situation today. So, what we can do today is working in education. We've got to be with the cutting edge, on the cutting edge. It's important to be there. And, the students we serve, they're on the cutting edge. So we want to be there as well. And historically, we know that the education sector has been late to adapt to new technologies. At Trio, we don't have to be that, right? We can be completely different. At Trio, we can be fast to adapt and therefore attract more students to the resources and opportunities we provide. We can demonstrate that Trio is a fun, it's a cool place to be. We want to be with it. We want to help and, demonstrate in every way that we are here to help. That makes me think about how when you're looking for a place to buy shoes or any, clothing, or maybe you're looking for a specific service, the first thing you're probably going to do is a Google search so that you can look up the website. And the kids our programs are serving are going to go straight to social media accounts. For younger students, maybe even as little as a decade difference in age, we've got to remember, like, this is very key. Your Google search is their social media search. And there's so much value in understanding that, and too much value not to take advantage of it. Another thing I think we can do today is, increase the validity of our movement statewide and nationally. And I know, Travello touched on that, but I do want to, bring it to, my situation at Oregon Trio Association. That's how we're going to influence Oregon legislators. And it's the same in any state, right? We've got to increase the validity of our movement statewide and nationally, and that can be in the form of interacting with each other and all type of things. I'm getting a little distracted. Looking at the chat, I love that there's so much, so many people popping in here, and I absolutely don't want to breeze over in my talk earlier. I know I use specific examples of low income students with disabilities, but that same disconnect, that is what I want to focus on. If if any group of peoples is feeling a disconnect from their peers, whether it be veterans, whether it be first generation students, it's all the same. That disconnect is can then create, unfortunately, a distrust in those institutions that we're counting on, that may be underfunded, that we're counting on to lift us up. And just leading back to the cure, or a method to counteract that for so many underrepresented students is finding this place of empowerment where they can inform themselves. I do want to jump back in to more things that we can do today. Travello also touched on authenticity, and I think this is so important. I think this is so cool that recently I've been finding out that grantors are now taking social media into account when making their decisions. I just learned this recently when our grant writer at Oregon Trio Association had been reaching out to me to find out the total number of followers for each of our social media platforms. And this was because it was at the request of the grantors. I think that's so interesting. I had no idea. Another situation was when applying for a grant, one of the requirements was that we follow this grantor's accounts. And after we did, they followed us back and all of that. But just the fact that that was a requirement, for their application process is so fascinating. And that just shows how important authenticity is becoming, more and more crucial. In the past, we knew it was important. We thought it was mainly for students and for peer organizations who search our profiles to gauge whether we're real or not. no catfishing here. We want to make sure, they're real. Okay, they've got more than 5 or 10 followers. Okay, they're probably real. Or seeing how often we post. Okay, they posted more than just once since 2018. Okay, they're probably real. And so, yeah, I think, that's just such a good example of how important and crucial authenticity is becoming. And with that said, I want to jump into the next slide. And my last slide, tips and tricks. The first way that I think is a great tip is to incorporate content for Cultural Awareness Months. I think it's a really simple and effective tool. There are so many, important ways to highlight this on our social media accounts. First, I've been thinking about how it's a great way to guide the content we create throughout the month. For example, March is Women's History Month. And during this month, we can share success stories of the women in our programs and, in each and every one of our programs, and use that as a tool to come up with ideas of content throughout that month. I think it's also a great way to make sure that all of the different groups of students we serve feel acknowledged. That is so important. Furthermore, it's a good opportunity to highlight leaders in our community. And in my own experience, I've noticed simply just a big increase in interactions with the content posting by simply using that month's corresponding hashtag. So, just using the hashtag Women's History Month, of course, having it align with the content, but that is just such an effective way to connect with so many different groups that have the same ideals that we do. And I know it can be challenging to promote our support of these movements without using social media and only using in-person communication or just slower methods of sharing information, just because these months come and go quickly. If we're only trying to put up flyers or mail out, that we're supporting these movements, it can be a little bit too late. So social media is so key in utilizing that. Another quick tip I have is that, very quick, but just that statistics show that video performs better than static images. And I think that's always a good reminder when making content decisions. The same goes, of course, for photos versus text. Having photos of students or having photos of something is always going to get a better response. That's, of course, the genius behind Instagram, right? And then lastly, as an AmeriCorps member, serving at Oregon Trio Association as the social media coordinator for only the last 5 months. This is my first time speaking on, what I've learned. And I've learned so many different ways to increase online visibility. And there are a ton of nuances and there are a ton of new technologies to adapt to. But at the core, the methods are always the same. Always. I see it time and time again. And they're very simple. First being identify your audience and always have them in mind. And that's easy for us, in the Trio world. We've got our mission, already aligned. We've got it laid out. The next being to be consistent with your posts. Like Travello mentioned, at least once a week. And if it's only once a week, on a certain day, that's great. Like, that is such a great start. We want to make sure we're not doing 4 posts one week and then disappearing for a month. if we can just do 1 day a week at first and just make sure to pick a day, continue to show up on that day week after week, that is such an effective method. And it can be very easy with hashtags as well. I love just using the same hashtag every week, whether it be Fact Friday, and then I highlight a fact about TRIO or some history tidbit about TRIO, or it be a super popular one, but is always great, is Motivation Monday, and finding quotes, sharing quotes that can also tie into the Cultural Awareness Month. So I'll do Motivation Monday during February, during Black History Month, and I'll do a quote by a historical Black figure, and tie in all of that together. And then they can also be a figure in education, and just keep making those ties. And then interacting and sharing our content with other TRIO programs is also another core method that I think is so important. We are so fortunate to be a part of this national movement that has been going on for so long. We're so fortunate to have COE supporting us and to be having them provide so much good methodology. And even on their website, on their social media, they have it laid out for us. Like that is such a big advantage that is great to take advantage of. And then lastly, and most importantly, as cliche as it may sound, just have fun with it. I think if you're not having fun with it, students will see right through it. And that is the last of this portion of the talk. And thank y'all so much. Now we want to dive into questions and discussion. Bring Travello back into the mix.
Yeah, I did. I think I missed a question while I was presenting. Someone said, what do you suggest to be the amount of time for your content? Like, how long should your videos be? General rule of thumb, if you're really good, 30 seconds. But the most platforms will usually let you do for a post, I'm talking about Instagram, is about 60 seconds. I would say you lose people about the 30-second mark. So if you can, keep it to 30, but if you must, 59.
Wonderful presentation, Travello, and you too, Jordan. It's amazing content and tips that you all put out there. For folks on the call, the voice, you can't see my face, but the voice you're hearing, I'm Terrence Hammond, Associate Vice President for Communications and Marketing at COE. And I just really kind of wanted to take the time before we broke to underscore a couple of things that you all were uplifting. And that really is about the why, like the students we serve. And coming out the pandemic, for sure, we all saw the importance, the need for digital engagement that was innovative. That wasn't like how we, provided those counseling and support services before. We had to take it online due to the pandemic. And so during distance learning, you really saw a lot of programs paying attention into ways they could reach those students, those almost lost students, disconnected students at a time when we were all safer at home. And so when we think about using social media as an avenue to reach into, still engage, to provide support for a population, quickly what comes to my mind are the non-traditional students. I saw someone on the call is from VUB, and so about the adult learners that I'm mentioning right now. We know that Generation Z, of course, grew up with social media, but the aging millennials like myself, 9 times out of 10, we're on it too. And so to reach those students, to show them the services, looking at EOC, looking at VUB, showing them that they can still have access to college through our programs is of such supreme importance right now, as we're still getting used to a new normal, but also still trying to reach a population that's always been underserved, but is now even more vulnerable than before because of the pandemic. And lastly, thinking about just reach, what comes to mind as I heard you all talking is the digital divide, and how oftentimes low-income students don't have, and Jordan, you touched on it too really well in your presentation, they don't have the access, they don't have the resources to internet sometimes. And so if we're looking at equity, if we're looking at making things, just leveling the playing field, we have to remember that social media is another way that we can reach students, but not all students might even be privy to internet. And when I think about internet, brings to mind one of our partners at COE, Comcast. You all might have seen the work that we're doing in collaboration around their Internet Essentials service. So important, so incredible. We're thankful that through Internet Essentials from Comcast, TRIO students, low-income TRIO students can get internet access at home for free. And so if you all are interested in learning more information about that service from Comcast Internet Essentials, please check out our website, conet.org, and then pass that information on to your students who might not have the internet access at home, who might not be able to connect to social media and such. We want to make sure that we're not, as Jordan said, amplifying a divide or amplifying a gap. We want to make sure that even as we look at using social media to connect to students, that we're being equitable and making sure that we're serving and reaching all those students using it, not just the ones that can afford smartphones, internet, and such. So that was just my comment, but awesome presentation, you all.
Thank you, Terrence. While I have everyone's attention real quick before people need to peace off, I did just want to show, and I see Donald has his hand raised too, and this is a beautiful transition as I advertise future talk. So you can see today we kind of did this larger social media overview. We do want to do a deep dive and kind of look like what a successful social media platform, what it looks like at the program level. And Donald Crocker here, who's about to speak, is going to be the one leading that. And then you can see as we're getting out with some of these tech talk topics, we're going to dive specifically into using Canva, using Instagram, maybe InDesign for designing some of the content you're putting out there. We want to touch on a variety of topics, so I hope you'll join us there. Donald, do you want to go ahead and step in here?
Yeah, I can just real quick, briefly, the tech talk I'm doing is, I think I saw a couple folks talking about like how to get students on there, follow your accounts and things like that. So what I'll be focusing on is building out your social media platforms, specifically asking questions like, who is your social media actually for? Which platforms are appropriate, and what content should be on each of these platforms, because we shouldn't be just reposting everything on all of them, because they're not all the same for everything. Like, we should be curating that. So actually, Travello, that was my question that you answered about the content. One thing I was thinking of specifically was like, how long did it take you to actually like think about and create your content? Not necessarily the time the end product, but like content creation as well. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think a lot of times as creatives, right, let me speak personally. As a creative myself, this is Travello speaking. This is not like digital manager COE speaking. It can be kind of hard, right, to come up with ideas like, what should this week's post be about? What should we uplift today? What, takes precedence over, etc. And for me, I like to go back to what Jordan said. If I'm not having fun, like, you want to have fun with it, right? And so I always start off with, what are my things above the fold that I need to get out? And based on what has a deadline, for example, our study abroad program, our deadline was this week. So my first post, I knew I had to dedicate to that deadline, right? So I'm very deadline trained. That's my journalism background coming in. So at the very, lowest level, you can say what's due when and start building your stuff out then for content. If you're trying to come up with, it takes me, depending upon which platform it is, determines how long it takes for me to kind of build out a post. With Twitter, they say, I'm not going to quote Drake, I like my job, but you know, Twitter is a lot more fast paced, right? Like you can do. Facebook is a lot longer. So I tend to take more time and massage those messages a little bit longer. Instagram is more visual, right? So I'm not thinking about the copy as much versus how much is going onto the graphic. So I would say it kind of depends on what your forte, what the audience is to your question. But you do want to set time aside to think about those things, right? Like you don't just want to say, oh, today is the 36th annual let me just post something, right? Like you want to actually think about it. That way you're incorporating those hashtags if need be. You're making sure you have the right handles, usernames to tag the appropriate parties. But yeah, great question, Donald. I'm gonna have to definitely check out your Tech Talk as well. The question, I wanted to go back to the tips to getting students to follow your account, because that's really important. If you remember from my presentation earlier, I said that's your meat and potatoes, right? Followers and engagement. And I think it all depends on your age group, but at the very least, the most priceless form of marketing is word of mouth. Talk to people, tell people where you're at, tell people where to go. If you don't say anything, they don't know, right? Like if you're just posting, no one's gonna see that. You have to tell folks, connect with us here, follow us here. Oh, you're looking for more information? You should definitely go to our Instagram page, or you know, whatever the case may be. I think word of mouth is always low level and it's low lift, right? If you're a little more into it and you're like, oh, I can do more than that, then by all means, you know, you can make a poster, put around campus. You can send out an email like, hey guys, follow us now. If you want, some people create whole campaigns around just getting their name and their social media out there. Again, I'm more than welcome if you want. I don't want to take up people's time, but if you want to talk more and chat offline, I'm a serious nerd about this stuff. So you can always reach me. Are there any more questions for us? If not, I'm not going to lie, guys. I did have 2 questions for you guys. I know we have you for an hour, so I had a question if anyone is willing and brave to answer. I wanted to know a key takeaway you took from this, a technique or something you plan to implement right away. Like I always love leaving from things knowing, oh, I could do this tomorrow, or I could go home and do this right away. So I would appreciate if anybody wanted to share something that they plan to do or use moving forward. And you can drop it in the chat. I'm cool with that too.
As I mentioned at Boise State, we're going to be looking for an admin. And one of the things we need is a social media presence for our veterans. So many things going on in the Treasure Valley, as well as, you know, a place for them to share. So I appreciate this. And I really appreciate that it's recorded, so that when we bring that person in, they can access it. And where to follow you. Trevello, is that how you say it?
Yes, Trevello, yes.
Trevello, yeah, so I've already added all those in. I'm like 65, trying to stay current.
Yes, and you
know, grandkids that help me.
When someone shows you something, and it's one-on-one, you're a lot more inclined to do it, right? Than just listening to somebody saying, click here, Like you sitting down with your veterans and saying, hey, this is what you can do. You'll be surprised. They're into it, right?
They
like
are.
Yeah, they'll really get into it. So thank you for doing that work, Francis. I appreciate it.
I'll be liking your stuff.
Thank you. This is awesome. This is awesome.
Thank you. Is that Maurice?
That's me.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Were active in that chat. I appreciate you, my friend.
Y'all. All right, Victoria, what's up? Okay.
Hey, Maurice. Good to see you.
You too, girl. Okay.
Well, thank you, guys. I don't have anything else, and I don't want to hold you. Time is precious, so that's all I have.
I have one more question for Jordan. I'm sorry.
Bring it on. No, bring it on, Donald.
It's one I've been holding
I'm not
for
closing it up.
For a minute. Jordan, you talked about authenticity and also connecting with the students.
Mhm.
Are there tips you would have for programs that, you know, I guess to avoid like performative posts, right? Things that, I mean, a student that is grown up on social media is going to be able to see in a second a post that is not authentic, that's performative. Like what types of tips could we walk away with that would avoid that, and but also show that in our posts in our social media platforms.
Sure, absolutely. I think consistency in our hashtags, and as well as, the way, I see Travella shaking her head, so I definitely want her to chime in here as well. But consistency in the way we write, consistency in our hashtags. One thing using just consistent language throughout our posts. If things are different, if things look like they're copy and pasted from other profiles, we don't want to, we want to learn from each other. We do want to, gather ideas from each other, but we don't want to copy and paste exactly the text and not, and where every post looks like it's from a different source or something. For instance, Oregon Tree Association, the way I write out things on posts, it comes from my style of writing as well. And I that shows the consistency. Yeah, I keep going back to that word, but just being consistent with that, I think, is so important. That's what comes to mind at first. I know I could come up with a lot more things if I thought about it, but that's such a great question. Thank you, Donald.
I would have to say, if you guys don't mind me hopping in, I would have to say, to speak to the authenticity piece, like match the look and feel of your program. Like, I know if I go to a tribal college's social media, I'm going to get that content that matches the work and the students that they serve, right? If I go to West Op SoCal, like, I'm not going to see the same content, right? I'm going to see sunny posts, very bright, versus if I am on Oregon's, social media, it should match the look and feel of where you are and the students you serve. That's what makes it authentic, right? Like, use content that you actually make. Use your pictures, a lot of times you might see stock photos from us, or you might see something a little more corporate, and that's because we're kind of like the headquarters, right? But you guys actually have the people, you have the students. Take pictures of them. You have the events. So that's where I think an easy at bat for authenticity can come in.
This was so incredible. Thank you guys so much. Huge thank you to Matt for helping to put this together with the PD committee. And thank you, Travello and Jordan, for taking time to present to us and be experts in this area. So on behalf of the NAEOP board, I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Thanks,
Jeff's
Jeff.
raising the roof, I believe.
No, Jeff is awesome. We're working together for an annual conference, right, Jeff, from volunteers?
Yay!
Yeah. No, all right, I'm done, guys. Let's go get some dinner, some lunch, something.
All right,
you
we'll see
guys take
some of
care.
y'all in DC. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.